I never imagined that one night could change my life forever. One wrong move, or maybe just one betrayal, and suddenly everything I loved was ripped away. My name is Ethan. I grew up in a quiet suburban town in the US, the kind of place where neighbors wave at each other as you walk past, kids ride bikes until sunset, and life feels safe, predictable, almost boring. I was never popular, never a troublemaker. I liked books, video games, and quiet afternoons in my room. My parents worked long hours, my father in a logistics company, my mother as a nurse, and I tried my best to make them proud. Life was simple, predictable, and safe. Until Jake, Chunk 2, introducing Jake and Sophie. Jake had been my best friend since we were 8. We did everything together, played video games, rode our bikes, shared late-night secrets, but I never saw the darkness growing inside him. He was charming, funny, clever. Everyone liked Jake. I trusted him completely. Then there was Sophie. Sophie was radiant, confident, effortlessly kind. Her laugh could light up any room, her smile made everything feel warmer. From the first day I met her in high school, I was drawn to her. I fell for her quietly, secretly, afraid of what I might feel if anyone knew. Chunk 3, the night of betrayal, everything changed on a Friday night. Jake invited me over to his house. Just movies and games, he said casually. Sophie had stayed late at a school event, so I assumed it would be normal. But from the moment I stepped inside, I felt tension, cold, and sharp. Jake was pacing, muttering under his breath, eyes darting nervously. "You trust me, right?" he asked suddenly, grinning in a way that made my stomach knot. "Of course," I said, trying to sound confident, though my voice wavered. And then he started talking about Sophie, strange things about money, secrets, jealousy. At first, I laughed it off, thinking he was joking, but the unease in the room thickened, and I realized he wasn't joking. Something was very wrong. By the end of the night, Sophie was gone. Jake had killed her. He framed me. Every piece of evidence, every whisper to the police, every planted clue, it all pointed at me. My heart sank. I couldn't believe my best friend could do this, and worse, that he would drag me into it. Chunk 4, trial and first night in prison. The trial was a nightmare. Witnesses lied, evidence was doctored, and the jury didn't know me. They only saw what Jake had created. The perfect crime with me as the scapegoat. 15 years in prison. 15 years for something I didn't do. I remember my first night behind bars. Cold metal bars, harsh fluorescent lights, the stench of disinfectant. I was terrified, feeling utterly alone and powerless. My parents cried when they visited. My friends turned their backs. Everyone I had trusted believed a lie. Prison was brutal. At first, I struggled to survive physically. I was smaller than most inmates, naive, inexperienced. But I quickly learned the rules. Stay quiet, stay alert, never show fear. Slowly, I adapted. Chunk 5, mental survival and remembering Sophie, but my mind never gave up. I refused to let Jake's betrayal define me. I spent my nights thinking, planning, remembering every detail, every conversation, every clue Jake might have left behind. I documented everything, secretly collecting information from guards, fellow inmates, and letters from people who still trusted me. Every day I remembered Sophie, her laughter, her kindness, her bright, living presence. The memory fueled me. I swore to myself that I would prove my innocence, no matter how long it took. Months turned into years. I studied the law, cases, and loopholes. I learned which evidence could be traced, which could be challenged, and how to reach people outside prison walls who might still help. I made friends cautiously, only trusting a few who had no reason to betray me. Chunk 6, hope, observations, and clues. The hardest part was keeping my hope alive. Many nights I stared at the ceiling, imagining what my life could have been if Sophie were still alive, if Jake had never crossed that line, if the world weren't so cruel. The pain was unbearable, but it also sharpened my focus. One day, a small piece of luck came my way. A fellow inmate, someone who had been quiet and observant like me, mentioned seeing Jake act suspiciously in the weeks leading up to Sophie's death. He hadn't spoken before out of fear, but now he trusted me. Slowly, carefully, I began piecing together the trail Jake had left. Letters from people outside confirmed suspicions, confessions I had encouraged through coded messages. It was painstaking, but each clue brought me closer to the truth. I realized that revenge wasn't about violence. It was about justice, about clearing my name and exposing the person who had destroyed my life. Chunk 7, prison life, patience, strategy. Prison changed me in ways I hadn't imagined. I was no longer just Ethan, the naive boy who trusted everyone. I became cautious, strategic, patient, and determined. Every day I imagined Jake behind bars, facing the consequences of his actions. Life in prison was harsh. Meals were cold, exercise was grueling, and violence was always a threat. I witnessed fights, thefts, and intimidation. I learned how to navigate this world without becoming a target, and I learned patience, true patience. Justice wouldn't come overnight, but with every passing year, I grew stronger, smarter, more determined. Chunk 8 breakthrough and reopening the case. Years passed. I continued my careful surveillance and communication. I learned who could be trusted outside and who couldn't. I mapped out Jake's connections, his friends, anyone who might know his secrets. I recorded confessions from people too scared to speak up before. Every scrap of evidence mattered, no matter how small. Then, a breakthrough came. A former coworker of Jake's contacted me indirectly through letters. He had noticed discrepancies in Jake's financial records and remembered conversations that hinted at premeditation. Another witness, someone who had been present at a party the night before Sophie's murder, mentioned seeing Jake act strangely, alone with her. I sent everything to my lawyer, carefully coded to avoid detection. Each letter brought a mix of hope and fear, hope that justice might finally be possible, fear that it might fail, but I couldn't stop now. Too much was at stake. Chunk 9, freedom and justice. After 15 long years, the day finally came. I walked out of prison, blinking against the sunlight, feeling the air on my face as if I had been reborn. Freedom was overwhelming, but it was also terrifying. The world I had left behind had moved on, and I had changed beyond recognition. The case reopened, and the investigation focused on Jake. Every detail I had meticulously collected over the years became crucial. Courtroom day arrived. Witness after witness came forward. Every lie he had told was exposed, piece by piece. When the judge delivered the verdict, I felt a surge of relief and vindication. Jake was found guilty of Sophie's murder, and the years of lies, manipulation, and betrayal he had constructed collapsed entirely. Chunk 10, closing and reflection. Leaving the courthouse, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. My name had been cleared. My character, once questioned and tarnished, was restored. But justice was not only about proving innocence, it was about honoring Sophie's memory. I visited Sophie's grave, laid flowers, and whispered, "I did it. Justice has been done. I'll never forget you." The years in prison had left scars, physical, emotional, and mental, but they also taught me resilience, patience, and strategy. I had faced betrayal, loss, and injustice, and I had emerged stronger. In the end, I realized that revenge was not about violence or hatred. It was about truth, persistence, and finally reclaiming the life that had been stolen from me. I walked away from the courthouse a free man, scarred but unbroken. A new chapter of my life was beginning, one where I could live, honor Sophie's memory, and finally, truly be myself again.